nobody would publish it because it was so scandalous, unverifiable, and likely fiction. So finally they decided, well, what we have to do is attach this dossier, this fake dossier, to an intelligence report. So the president receives these intelligence reports, and they're given directly to the president.
Very, very interesting interview. Senator Rand Paul dropping a bit of a bombshell earlier today about the former CIA Director John Brennan and the Steele dossier that figured in the Russia investigation. New York Republican Peter King serves on the Homeland Security Committee. And, sir, good morning to you. Rand Paul was out with the claim late yesterday on Twitter. That interview from Fox and Friends earlier today. Were you aware of the claim that he's now making about John Brennan, if true?
I was not aware of all the particulars, and I'm not certain exactly what Brennan's role was, except that it was a bad role. I felt from the start of this, going back to October, November, and December of 2016, that Brennan was rigging this, that he was going out of his way to slant a report against the president. Since then, he's been repeatedly on television and the media talking about collusion. Now he says maybe he misinterpreted the evidence. If that's the case, it means, number one, either he's a liar, or number two, he wasn't smart enough to be CIA director. If he would go on national television and basically call the president a traitor by misinterpreting evidence, in either way, he disgraced his office. He should be brought before Congress, explain this. And what Rand Paul said, it could well be true. I mean, John Brennan has been the evil force here. And again, you have Brennan, you have Clapper, you have Comey. And would they have done what they did if President Obama was not aware of it? I mean, if there's any collusion here, it may have been in the White House or among the top intelligence people working for President Obama. You
just said John Brennan is the evil force? Is that what you said?
Yes, I did. When you have someone coming out with, being involved in reports coming out, going on national television as a former CIA, not as a congressman, as a senator, or a journalist, or a commentator, but as head of the CIA, and that office is respected around the world, for him to say the president is guilty of collusion, of treason, that, to me, was evil to say unless he had absolute proof. As it turns out, he had none. This wasn't even like...
he was asked, he was asked about the other day. I think he said he had bad information. I think that was the initial comment on Monday of this past week. I just want to... speaking of the dossier, the president was with Sean Hannity last night. Here is what he said when asked about that.
When you look at what happened and when it happened and the money that was spent, the millions and millions on the phony dossier, and then they used the dossier to start things, and there was no truth whatsoever. It was a fraud and paid for by Hillary Clinton and paid for by the Democrats and the DNC. It's hard to believe. If you wrote this as a novel, nobody would buy it.
If that is all true, and they include the dossier in with this intel report, who sees that, Congressman? Who is privy to that information?
It's a question of whether or not it was actually included in the report, but we do know it was part of what was used to back up the application for the FISA warrant. This is before a secret court with no adversary in the room. This was presented. The Steele dossier was part of the evidence submitted. In fact, it was a key part of the evidence submitted to get a wiretap of the Trump campaign. And they did not tell the court that was a campaign document. They used some vague words, nowhere indicating it was paid for by the Clinton campaign, nowhere indicating how partisan that was. So, again...
If that's true, and if that is all true, what you're saying and what Rand Paul is claiming, that all the leading members of the previous administration knew about it, correct?
They would have to have known. I mean, considering the jobs they held, Director of National Intelligence, head of the FBI, for that matter, President of the United States, Attorney General, all of those people, if they did not know that this was a fraud, then they didn't deserve to hold those offices. If they did know it was a fraud, then this was a colossal scandal which has to be fully investigated, and not just because it's President Trump. I hope I would say the same thing if this had been done against President Obama or against Hillary Clinton if she had been elected. This is wrong to have the law enforcement and intelligence agencies of the United States conspiring to unseat and to bring down a duly elected president of the United States when they know there's no evidence there.
Pete King, come on back. More answers that are needed.